Well, students, hello. We are back, and here I am with the second section of the health and diseases. If you recall well, we did learn that whenever a person is not at ease, is not comfortable, we say the person is suffering from a disease. So today we'll be discussing the questions again, but before that, just to help you recapitulate or recall the diseases, their type that we discussed in the last question in brief. Let's look at the flow chart that we drew. That diseases have broadly been classified in two categories, as you can see, hereditary and acquired. Hereditary means the disease that a child is born with, whereas acquired diseases, the disease that a child acquires, gains, or end up suffering from after the birth. And then these acquired diseases that based on the factor what makes the person or a child suffer from a disease. We ended up classifying these diseases in three categories: nutritional, non-infectious, and infectious. Nutritional disease, that means disease related to nutrition. Whether you are eating less, you are eating more, or you are not eating, or you are eating insufficiently. Based on that factor, the disease that the person ends up suffering are categorized under the category of the nutritional diseases. Non-infectious diseases, these are the biological diseases that because of one reason or other, an important body organ fails to function efficiently. And the non-functioning of the important organ, whether it's heart, kidney, liver, etc., causes a person to suffer from a disease like stones, like diabetes, like heart diseases, high blood pressure, kidney problems. All these diseases that are organ related are what we call as non-infectious diseases, because these are diseases in which the people or the person you are living with, you are staying with, is not at risk. The disease is not going to be transmitted from the person to person. But then there are diseases, there is a list of diseases caused by various germs, microorganisms that we call as pathogens, which ended up passing from an infected person to the healthy person. That means the person suffering from a disease can be a threat to the healthy person, as the person can transmit the disease, or the disease person is not transmitting the disease, but disease may get transmitted from the infected person to the healthy person, willingly or unwillingly, directly or indirectly. And these diseases, based on the causative agents, that what has caused the disease, have broadly been classified in 5 categories, as you can see. Viral disease is caused by viruses, bacterial disease caused by bacteria, protozoan disease caused by protozoa, helminthic caused by worms. Helminthic means worms. Whereas fungal disease caused by fungi. Now this is the classification based on the causative agent. However, we can also classify these diseases, infectious disease, in the mode of transmission. That how the disease get transmitted from an infected person to a healthy person. was the medium, was the media. It can be hereditary, passing from the genes. Genes are the carriers of the disease. Physical contact, it can be direct or indirect. Indirect means like sharing of a towel, sharing of glasses, sharing of syringes. Or it can be direct, like in STD, there is a direct physical contact in the sexually transmitted diseases. That the physical contact comes in directly, such as in gonorrhea, syphilis, AIDS. If it is an unprotected sex, then it can be AIDS. It can be vector. Vector means an animal. Or an insect. That can be the cause of the disease. And then air, as a person is speaking, sneezing, coughing, the germs end up coming out in the form of water droplets. And if they are inhaled by the other person, by a healthy person, the germ end up entering into the body. And it may then lead to the disease. Or it can be food or water, that the germs are present in the food or in water, and then from there, when the person takes or eat this sort of food infected with the germs, the person ends up suffering from the disease. So based in general, basically on the mode of the transmission, that how the infected disease has got transmitted from an infected person to a healthy person. The diseases have been categorized in these 5 categories: hereditary, physical contact, direct or indirect, vector, air, and then water or food. Now, looking on this, after going over the last many years of the questions, because you know, there are many times questions have come from diseases. And it's necessary, let me use the word necessary, to for you to find at least 1 or 2 questions or even more from this section of diseases in your examination. So let's look at those questions to analyze or to gain a little bit more knowledge or add to the knowledge that you already know. Next, starting with viruses that infect bacteria are called. Now, viruses are smaller. They are at the borderline of living and non-living. As the germs infect higher organisms like yourself, myself, same way a bacteria can also be infected. And the infection is caused by a virus. Virus enters into the body of bacteria and destroys or kills the bacteria. Now, these viruses, which are capable of infecting bacteria, what are these viruses called? Bacteriophages, basophils, basal body, basidiospores. The correct answer is bacteriophages. Because basophils, they are type of WBC, white blood cells. Basal bodies are the part of centriole, from where flagella and flagella originate. Basidiospores are the spores of fungus. There is a class of fungi called basidiomycetes, and the spores produced by the members of the basidiomycetes are called basidiospores. So, the option A is the correct option. Bacteriophages are the viruses that infect the bacteria and leads to their death. Next, bacteria which is found in the large intestine of human. Actually, if we look into the colon or the large intestine of human or other animals, we'll realize that there are different type of bacteria that are there. It's like a forest of different bacteria or other microorganisms inside the body. And these bacteria, either they are useful or they are in symbiotic relationship or they are harmless to the body. They are just there. They are surviving on our body but are not causing any harm. And most of these bacteria, if we look at, they are of the category of E. coli. Because E. coli is the one, E. coli in brief, is the one that is used by the scientists to check that water from the water reservoirs is polluted or not. It is E. coli bacteria. There is another class of bacteria called coliform bacteria. These bacteria are present in the human excreta. Now, if the percentage or density of these bacteria is more in the water, then we say the water is polluted. If it is normal or below normal, we say the water is fresh. So, these bacteria, E. coli bacteria, are the ones that are present in the water and have come with the human excreta. When we look at the other ones, Vibrio cholerae is the causative agent for cholera. Bacillus anthracis is the one for anthrax, and Corynebacterium diphtheriae is the one for diphtheria. These are different bacteria which cause the diseases, except E. coli, which is in the large intestine. Next, the causal organism of polio is one of the diseases which is well known. If you know or recall, there is a pulse program going on in India. It is in order to remove or eradicate polio from the country. That means no child should suffer from polio. Therefore, the polio vaccines or polio drops are given to the child to protect, as a protection against the polio. And if we look at what actually the polio is caused by, polio is caused by the virus that we call as polio virus, or in some cases it is also called as enterovirus. That is the virus which causes the disease called polio. Next, the name of bacteria which causes tuberculosis. Tuberculosis means in general people call it TB. Capital T, capital B. What causes this disease? Vibrio cholerae causes cholera. Bacillus coli is neutral, does not cause any disease much. E. coli is again neutral, doesn't cause any disease as such. It is Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Mycobacterium tuberculosis is one of the bacteria that causes infection of the lungs. And the infection of the lungs causes the disease called tuberculosis, which is characterized by continuous coughing, sputum, and even in severe cases the treatment is not being carried out by the antibiotics. A person's sputum may be contaminated with blood, that as he coughs, the sputum that comes out, it has got the stains of blood in it. That's tuberculosis and is an infectious disease spread by air. Next, bacteria which causes food poisoning. Bacteria which causes food poisoning is Clostridium botulinum, because Clostridium tetani is the one that causes a disease called tetanus. Salmonella typhoidum is the one that causes typhoid. Bacillus anthracis is the one that causes the disease anthrax. And hence we are left with only one, and that is the Clostridium botulinum, which causes the food poisoning. Particularly if you have eaten the food which is not covered and has been left exposed to the air for a long time, particularly from these people who you call as vendormans, who just sell the fruit, etc. charts in open. When we eat those sort of the stuff, we end up suffering from food poisoning, in which way the person suffers from what you call as frequent visiting the washrooms, vomiting, stomach ache, these sort of the problems that the child or the person end up suffering from. That is an indication of what we call as food poisoning, and that is caused by Clostridium botulinum, the causative agent. Next, which one of the following disease is caused by bacteria? If we look at the disease, as we have just learned, tuberculosis is caused by the bacteria called Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So the tuberculosis is the one which is caused by bacteria, because mumps is caused by a virus, smallpox is also caused by a virus, and rabies is also caused by virus. Mumps is caused by rubella virus. Smallpox is varicella zoster. Rabies is called rabado. So these are the last three. Mumps, smallpox and rabies are caused by the virus. Tuberculosis is the one that is caused by bacteria called Mycobacterium. Tuberculosis or tuberculosis. Next, TMV is related to a virus, process of evolution, thyroid infection, transmission of pathogens. Actually, TMV stands for a virus. Initially, the discovery of the virus by Ivanovsky, a Russian scientist, was done by using TM, which stands for tobacco mosaic virus. TMV stands for tobacco mosaic virus, which was the first virus to be discovered and isolated by the Russian scientist Ivanovsky. So TMV is related to a virus. Next, the disease hydrophobia is caused due to hydrophobia, means fear for water. Hydro means water, phobia means fear. So hydrophobia means fear for water. Now, hydrophobia is a disease, the other name that we call for rabies. And rabies is the one that is transmitted by an infected dog or by other mammal. And this disease is caused by a virus. So hydrophobia is a disease caused by a virus. Virus that causes rabies. Rabies virus, which is rabado. Virus. Next, virus which contain RNA as genetic material. Virus has got the nuclear material. Nuclear material can be DNA. It can be double-stranded. RNA, or it can be single-stranded RNA. Now, these viruses which contain RNA as genetic material, what are they called? These viruses are called retroviruses. These viruses are called retroviruses because these viruses are characterized by the presence of an enzyme called reverse transcriptase. This enzyme helps convert RNA into DNA. Before the virus starts dividing, RNA has to be converted into DNA. And that interconversion is possible only in the presence of the enzyme reverse transcriptase. And therefore, this enzyme is only found in case of retroviruses. That is, a virus containing RNA, not the virus containing DNA. Next, water of Holy Ganges river is pure due to presence of. We all know that the water of Ganges, water taken from Ganges, doesn't get bad. It remains fresh for a long period of time. Even the closed bottle, if you take it or you just drink it, you got a very least chance of getting any disease. Now, what makes this water of the Ganges pure or fresh? Is it because of the cyanophages? Cyanophages are blue-green algae. Blue-green algae, cyanobacteria. Hydrophytes are the plants, aquatic plants. Bacteria are as it is, they can be useful, they can be harmful, or can be disease causing. Bacteriophages are the viruses which infect the bacteria. Actually, the water of the Ganges is holy, is fresh, because of the presence of these bacteriophages. Because these bacteriophages were in the water, they kill the bacteria, irrespective of the fact that whether those bacteria are useful or harmful to the mankind. But these bacteria are being killed by these bacteriophages present in the Ganges water. And hence the Ganges water remains fresh and pure without getting spoiled early. Next, viruses having DNA or RNA can be crystallized. Crystallized means like chemicals, like salts, but cannot respire. Hence, they are treated as living material now because they can be crystallized, and no living matter can be crystallized. Non-living material, they can't. Both living and non-living materials, partly plant, partly animal. Actually, this option C is the one, because viruses stands or considered as at borderline of living and non-living. That means they are just at the line. Borderline means just like a door. They are in the middle of the door. Neither once you are in the middle of the door, you are inside the room, nor you are outside the room. Just a slight shift can change you inside or outside. Same way a virus is at the borderline of living and non-living. A slight change can transform the virus into living, and a slight change in other ways can change the virus into non-living. Like they getting crystallized is a factor that they are non-living, but they are aspiring once in the living organism, then that means they are living. They are producing once inside the living organism, they are living, but once outside they cannot. That means they are non-living. So they are considered the borderline of living and non-living. And hence option C is the correct, that both living and non-living materials. Next, the disease AIDS is caused by. It's a very well-known disease these days and very too much talked about, is the disease which is caused by HIV. HIV. It can be HIV-1 or it can be HIV-2, depending upon the symptom that the disease shows. But in both the cases, whether it's HIV-1 or HIV-2, the disease is caused by the virus, because HIV stands for Human Immunodeficiency Virus. So the option C is the correct option. Next, HIV virus destroys RBC, T lymphocytes, neuron, none of these. Actually, if you see here HIV, we realize that HIV stands for Human Immunodeficiency Virus. Immunodeficiency means deficiency of immunity. Immunity is power. Strength or power to fight with antigens and protect the body. That means let the body not suffer from any disease. So these that strength provided by the WBC, because WBC are the natural fighters, natural soldiers of the body, and lymphocytes are one of them. What happens in HIV, if a person is suffering from AIDS, HIV virus damages these lymphocytes, these WBCs, such that now body, in absence or reduced number of lymphocytes, has got less ability or is less capable to fight from the different pathogens, such that the person becomes more prone, more easy. It becomes easy for the pathogen to infect the person and cause a disease. And as you are aware that none dies of AIDS. A person dies of AIDS because of some disease, because the body does not have got the resistance to fight that pathogen of that particular disease, and hence the person ends up suffering from that disease and dying, in which the tuberculosis topped the list. If we look at the WHO studies being done recently, it shows that the most of the deaths which are caused because of tuberculosis are being caused by the TB or by tuberculosis, the major causative agent of the disease, and the death among humans. Next, AIDS virus HIV contains. Now, HIV virus is a retrovirus, first thing. And being a retrovirus, it cannot contain DNA. It has to have a RNA because it is a retrovirus. Now the question arises whether it's single or double. The strand is single. HIV virus contains single-stranded RNA. That means RNA is there, like this. If I look at it, is single-stranded. The protein type are of P24 type. These are the type of proteins which are found in the viruses. And if we look at the number of nucleotides is 9,479. That is the total number of the nucleotides in the RNA of HIV, right? And this HIV is the one that causes the AIDS. And the RNA nuclear material is single-stranded. Next, the disease AIDS spread through. That means there is a person suffering from AIDS. How is the disease going to get transmitted from this infected patient or infected person to a healthy person? Blood contact, direct or indirect, like transfusion of infected blood, or by sharing of needles, by sharing of razors. Unprotected sex, that means unprotected sex means sex without the use of condom or any other protection. Infected breast milk, that means a mother is infected with the AIDS or is suffering from AIDS and is breastfeeding a child. Then the milk the child sucks or gets from the mother is infected with the HIV, and hence the child also becomes patient of AIDS. Now, or all three are correct? Yes, D is the correct option, because a person can suffer from AIDS. A healthy person can suffer from AIDS if he shares the pointed or sharp objects like needles, razors, etc., unprotected sex, and if when the infected mother feeds the child, then there are chances of transmission of HIV from infected mother to the child. So all the three options are the correct options. Next. What is SARS? SARS. An organization, a political organization. A disease caused by a virus, a disease caused by bacteria, or is a type of a carbohydrate nucleic acid. If we look at SARS, a disease which is caused by a virus, and SARS stands for severe acute respiratory syndrome. So B is the correct option for SARS. SARS stands for a disease and which is severe acute respiratory syndrome and is caused by the virus, in which what happens, the trachea and the nasal passage, the air passage blocks up. As a blocking of this, what happens, the person, infected person, fails to breathe properly or enjoy or have a proper gaseous exchange, such that the body runs short of oxygen and the child suffers from asthmatic or pneumonic conditions. Next, foot and mouth disease in animal is caused by, again, a virus. Foot and mouth disease, which is called as FMDV, foot and mouth disease virus. Foot and mouth disease virus, and this is Cox CK virus. That's the name for the virus, Cox CK virus, which is the foot and mouth disease virus. And mostly it is found in the animals, in the grazing animals like cows, goats, sheep, etc. However, the disease can also be transmitted from the animals, these wild animals, to the humans. Hence, one needs to be very precautionary or take necessary precaution when the disease spreads in the wild areas. Next, H1N1. Virus is sometimes mentioned in the news with reference to which of the following disease? It can be H1N1 or H1N5. The disease is none but the swine flu. Swine flu is the disease which is concerned or is associated with the H1N1 viruses. Because AIDS is a viral disease, not a flu sort of conditions. Dengue is a breakbone, which is again a viral disease. And bird flu is again a viral flu, but is only restricted to the birds. Next, ergotism. Ergotism is caused due to Rhizobium claviceps, Phytomonas, or albugo. If we look at the ergotism stands for claviceps purpura. This produces alkaloids. And these alkaloids, they have got a toxic effect on the body if they are eaten, if the food contaminated with these claviceps is being eaten by the person suffers. And hence one needs to be very careful when the person is eating the food to make sure that the food is not decayed or the food is not undergoing the rotting, because some of these alkaloids, they have got their own effect on the nervous system and can even cause damage. And just for your information, if you know, LSD, lysergic acid, diethylamide, one of the drug, a very toxic drug, very powerful drug used by the drug abusers, the people who use drug, who are addicted to drugs. Some of them, they take LSD, like marijuana, like charas, etc. And this LSD is extracted from the alkaloids produced by the claviceps purpura. And damage means once a person takes LSD, they say that a person takes LSD, he gets used to it, he gets addicted to it, and it's very difficult for a person to get away without the intake of the LSD. The body gets so used to it. So one has to be very careful with the use of these drugs or with the intake of decayed or rotting food. Just avoid it. At every cost, avoid it. I would say it's better to be hungry than to eat the decayed food, because remaining hungry will not harm the body as much as eating the decayed food would cause the damage to the body. Right? Aflatoxin. Aflatoxins are produced by. Aflatoxins are the toxins, as the word toxin means poisons. They are produced by the fungi called Aspergillus. Aspergillus flavicus or flavius. Now this fungi, what happened? It's a common fungi which infect the particular vegetable matter. That means the dals, vegetable curry, or any other vegetable product which is there in the diet. If left exposed to the air for a long period of time, is going to get infected with this Aspergillus ones and will produce a toxin called aflatoxin. And hence, one need to be very careful, particularly if we are feeding on groundnut. Maize, groundnut or maize or their products, they are more prone to be infected with with this Aspergillus than the other vegetable matters. But overall, all vegetable matters are prone to be infected, get infected or mixed with asparagus that will produce up aflatoxins, and if taken, they are going to harm the body. Next, dog bite can cause rabies. Rabid dogs, you might have seen, there are some dogs. One can identify a dog very easily whether the dog is rabid or not. If in a dog the tongue keeps on hanging out all the time, right, that means the dog is rabid. Rabid means suffering from. Rabies. I repeat again. There are two dogs. One in which the mouth is closed and tongue remains inside the mouth. One can see the tongue only when the dog barks or opens the mouth. And then there is another dog, mostly in the street, that we find that a dog is, even when sitting or walking or standing, the tongue keep on hanging out. Now, this sort of a dog is the one that has got already infected with the rabies virus. And if the bite of these dogs is the one that causes the rabies. Now, what it says is that dog bite can cause rabies. Which among the following other animals can also cause rabies? Now, there are lists of the animals: bat, horse, crocodile, donkey. It is bat. The bite of the bat. Vampire bats, you might have heard of, that sucks the blood. Those are some of the bats. When they bite, if they happen to bite a person, there are chances that they can transmit the rabies to the person to whom the bat has bitten. Next, which microorganism causes hepatitis B? If we look at hepatitis means the disease associated with the liver. Now, there are kinds of hepatitis A, B, C, D, K. There are different forms of the hepatitis known. But all these hepatitis infections, they are caused by viruses. Whether it's A, B, or hepatitis C or D, they are all caused by the viruses. They only differ in the symptoms they show, or the cause, or what has caused, the mode of transmission, the symptoms that makes them differ. Otherwise, in each case, the target organ is liver, and the effect is pronounced on the person, which can even be fatal, deadly in some cases. Next, one of the reasons of the muscular dystrophy. Muscular dystrophy means the person is failing to do the work using his muscles, that even when he walks or tries to sit, he undergoes a severe pain in his muscles. Among the poor in India is eating off. Cycloratinum is a gram. Eating gram, that is chana. Lathyrus sedavis, kesari dal. Pisum stavum is pea, what you call as mutter. Facilus mungo is a legume. Now, eating which of them causes muscular dystrophy? It is B, Lathyrus sativus. What is happening is that these days Lathyrus sativus is easily available and it is cheap comparatively as compared to the other vegetables. What happens, therefore, there are certain legumes whose color and size matches to that of the Lathyrus sativus. So what some of these corrupt businessmen do, they mix the Lathyrus sativus with that particular legume in order to have a economic benefit. and that without realizing that the intake of the Lathyrus sativus is causing or can cause a serious damage to the consumer. But that's the one. That's how the people are trying to save the money these days. Fine. Next. Branch of science which deals with the study of causative agent of disease. Now, there are the list of the disease branches of biology. Ecology, study of living and non-living. Etiology is the study of the causative agent. Of diseases. Eugenics is the branch that deals with the improvement in human race. That means he is a man who is intelligent, he would like to go for intelligent one, who is fair, is trying to go for the fair one, and try to avoid marrying with someone who is suffering from some disease. Now, what actually is that this selection method is based in order to improve the human race. And even in some cases, pedigree is also consulted. That means no man in the family is suffering from any of the genetic disorder like color blindness, hemophilia, etc. In case if it is traced out that any one of the member of the family has been suffering from the hereditary disease, then the marriage is not considered to be valid and is avoided, so that the gene may not reappear in one of the offspring the couple may have later in life. So that is improving the human race is what we call as eugenics. Whereas euthanasia is again for the improvement of human race, but by necessary changes in environment. That means to develop a healthy environment in which the human should live. Because in a healthy environment where a person lives or survives, he end up growing healthy, growing more fresher, free of diseases, and that helps improve the human race. So, changing up the environmental conditions surrounding the people, or particularly in the workers, if you know that a particular worker is doing a particular work, and if he continues working in that condition for a long time, he may end up suffering from disease like silicosis, pneumococcal, etc. you have heard of. Now, if some slight changes could be made at the working place, then that means the effect of the disease may not occur, or if occurs, then would be less as compared to otherwise. Now, improving those conditions, working conditions, can help a person to remain healthy for a longer time. So these sort of changes, when they are looked into, then that branch of science is called as euthanics. So with respect to the question, etiology is the correct answer. That is the one which is responsible for the study of the causative agent, that is a disease. Which germ is responsible for this? Is it a protozoa, bacteria, virus, or a helminth, or is it a fungus? And what type of that fungus or bacteria is it? And how can we control it? When someone looks into these factors, then he is looking into the etiology part of the pathology. Next. Malaria parasite and amoeba. Malaria parasite is Plasmodium. Plasmodium species. It can be Vivax. It can be malariae. it can be ovale, or it can be falciparum. These are 4 different species of Plasmodium that can cause malaria. So, that is the malaria parasite. And the amoeba are grouped under the category of protozoa because they are protozoans. Amoeba undergo binary fission, whereas malaria parasite undergoes multiple fission. That's the basic difference. And other is amoeba is free living, whereas malaria parasite is parasitic, as the word parasite says. Next, protozoa are responsible for blood-stained dysentery. Blood-stained dysentery, that means the excreta is stained with blood. That is, the excreta is looked at, then the person is found to have the excreta stained with blood. Now, which in the severe cases? Now, which is the cause of that? Which protozoa? Amoeba is a protozoa, entamoeba is a protozoa, paramecium is also a protozoa, and trypanosoma is also a protozoa. Trypanosoma causes sleeping sickness. Amoeba is neutral, free living. Paramecium is again free living. Doesn't cause any infection. It is entamoeba, entamoeba histolytica. That causes blood-stained dysentery. And the disease is called amoebiasis. So the correct option is B. Entamoeba histolytica is the one, or entamoebas in general is the name of the protozoa that causes the disease called amoebiasis, characterized by the sign that the excreta is stained with the blood.